Tyson Campbell, cornerback from the University of Georgia, 6'2", 185. Tyson's the ultimate outside corner. He's not as versatile as some of the other corners that I mentioned, but when you put him on the outside, that's where he does a lot of damage. The things that I love about Tyson, being 6'2", being 185, he has real good feet for a guy with his length. He moves extremely well, especially in space. Some of the concerns that I have with Tyson, he has issues locating the football. He does not play the deep ball well. If he can just consistently find the football, he would make more plays. And because of that, he only had 1 interception in 3 years of play there at the University of Georgia. But I can tell you this much, he has a lot of potential. The NFL comp for Tyson Campbell is Carlton Davis.
Elijah Moore, the wide receiver out of Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin, when he took that job, really took a look at Elijah Moore and made him a mainstay playmaker in that Ole Miss offense. He kind of reminds you of Cole Beasley. 2 things that you're going to notice when you watch him on tape is, number one, this guy is tough despite being only 5'9", 185. He will go across the middle and come up with that big catch. The other thing you'll notice, he's extremely reliable. On 200 catchable targets throughout his career, he's only dropped 10 balls. So this guy is not only tough, he's very reliable. He's going to be a real weapon coming out of that slot at the next level.
Javonte Williams, 5'10", 225 pounds, incredible acceleration and balance and being able to wait for the hole to develop, burst through the hole. He's just done a great job between the tackles. And while he doesn't have the top end speed that his teammate Michael Carter had, he's still good enough to be able to scoot through that hole, turn what might be a 2-yard gain into a 7 or 8-yard gain. You're also looking at him, at 5'10", with maybe some size concerns, but Williams has put together so much production during his time at North Carolina that he's set single season program records for total touchdowns. And you break down the tape and he just does a great job of avoiding tackles. So with a technical prowess that sets him aside from most of the running backs in this class, Javonte Williams is a very, very exciting prospect at the running back position.
Javon Holland, safety from Oregon. 9 picks in 2 years. The thing that I love about Javon, he's like a Swiss Army knife. If football had a 5'2" player, Javon would be that player. He's very, very versatile. You can move him around anywhere in the football field, anywhere in the secondary, and he will be impactful. The concern that I have with Javon Holland is I wish he had more tape. Played only 2 years, decided to opt out in 2020, and I believe if he played this season, he would have earned more experience. But granted, he's still a top-tier like player, and like I said, he's very, very versatile. The NFL comp for Javon Holland is Antoine Winfield Jr. He's a bit taller than Antoine Winfield Jr., but they play with the same tenacity. Very, very violent, physical players.
Florida State, Alabama, it didn't matter. Landon Dickerson is just a flat-out baller. And nothing says leadership like what happened in the national championship game with, despite an injured knee, Nick Saban sent him out there to snap the final snap of that national title win over Ohio State. When he gets to the second or third level, it's over. The dude's got the power. He is an absolute mauler. The injuries last year combined with those in 2018 and 2019 do suggest that maybe, just maybe, from a durability standpoint, he's got some issues, but man, the dude's got quick feet. He gets downhill and he punishes you. As for an NFL comparison, let's go with Mike Pouncey. Versatile interior offensive lineman, going to have a long career at the next level.
Christian Barmore is just the latest in a long line of defensive linemen to come out of Tuscaloosa for the Alabama Crimson Tide. And he's not quite as good as some of the players before him, but that doesn't mean that much because they've set the bar extremely high there at Alabama. Got great versatility to play either the 1 or the 3 technique inside. He's got good natural power as a rusher up front. He's played limited reps though. That's the one thing I would have liked to see more tape of him, only really getting to compile about a year's worth of film. He does play too high at times sometimes, which is a natural tendency for a guy who's 6'5", 310 pounds, playing that interior position. NFL comp I could see for him is a Gerald McCoy, who had a really nice career in the NFL.
Tevin Jenkins, the offensive tackle out of Oklahoma State in the Big 12, one of my favorite players in all of college football. If you're standing there as a quarterback and you look to your left, you want to see a guy like Tevin Jenkins. The guy is massive, stands 6'6", close to 315 pounds. Kind of reminds me of Marcus Cannon. The biggest thing you'll notice is his sheer strength, his size, and his footwork. When he puts your hands on you and decides to finish you, you have zero shot. The one thing that he's going to have to improve is just control his emotions a little bit. He likes to play to the whistle. He's got more than enough personal fouls after the whistle, but you love that aggressiveness. I think this is a guy, when you draft him, you're looking at a 10-year left tackle for your football team.
Richie Grant is as comfortable in deep center field as he is in the box. On 80% of his college snaps, he evenly split his duties between the two positions. The other 20% of the time, he was lined up in the slot. That versatility combined with the physicality he brings to the field makes him an easy player to like. He's better against the run than in the pass coverage, but don't misunderstand. He plays the game at an extremely high level and has a deep understanding of what the offense wants to do. Grant is only limited by his physical skills. While he's a man possessed coming downhill, his lack of deep speed can sometimes leave him exposed if he's matched up against wide receivers on downfield routes. That said, he has a nose for the ball, logging 10 interceptions in his last 3 seasons at UCF, and he's a thumper in the run game. Grant will be a day one contributor on special teams and in sub packages in the NFL.
Washington's Levi Onwuzurike is the type of player that NFL teams are looking for nowadays. They're looking for interior defensive linemen that can clog up the middle, take up double teams, and try to defend against these high-flying offenses you see across the league. At 6'3", 295, a little bit undersized, but he's got great get off the ball. You notice that. And he plays with great pad level for somebody at his height at 6'3", gets low under the defense, which is what you need to do. If he does add some weight to his frame, rounds out his game, he could be just what defensive coordinators are looking for at the next level.
Notre Dame offensive tackle Liam Eichenberg standing at 6'6", a little over 300 pounds. Some of the strengths of Liam is he is a technician, whether it's in the run blocking game or pass blocking game. He does a tremendous job in his sets, getting the proper hand placement on opponents, and he plays with great leverage for his size. Now, sometimes you'll see him lack balance, especially if he gets beat at time, and he doesn't necessarily lack the athleticism to recover for that, but that is few and far between. You'd be hard-pressed to find a tackle that had a better season this past season for Liam Eichenberg at Notre Dame. My comp for him, Joe Staley, longtime offensive tackle for the San Francisco 49ers. I think whoever drafts Liam Eichenberg is going to get a tackle that's going to be a mainstay there for a long time.
Trayvon Marrig, safety from TCU. The thing that I love about Trayvon, he's the ultimate football player. The reason why I say that, before he cracked the starting lineup in the secondary, he was a terror on special teams. And then when he jumped into the lineup, the impact was immediately felt. I mean, he had 4 interceptions in 2019. He had 2 in 2020. He combined for 20 PBUs in those 2 years. Very versatile player, good ball skills. He loves football. The concerns that I have with Trayvon, sometimes he's a bit too aggressive when it comes to tackling and when it comes to being in coverage. Sometimes he can run himself out of the play in run support because he's too aggressive. And sometimes in the passing game, when it comes to covering pass catchers, he's too aggressive. He's trying to always make a play, and sometimes that can put him in a bad position. The ultimate NFL comp for Trayvon Marrig is Grant Delpit.
From a talent perspective, Joseph is easily one of the most gifted cornerbacks in the 2021 NFL draft class. He is physical in coverage and does a tremendous job of locating the football in the air, as evidenced by his 4 interceptions last season. His interception of Mac Jones in coverage against Devontae Smith was one of the best plays made by any cornerback in this draft class. The once highly rated recruit transferred from LSU after his freshman season. He essentially has just 1 full season of starting experience and has been known to make poor decisions after the play has concluded. There is boom or bust potential with the selection of Joseph. My comparison for him is L'Jarius Sneed, who was one of the NFL's best rookies last season when healthy.
Walker Little out of Stanford opted out of the 2020 season, but back in 2019, he was one of the premier prospects at the tackle position. He plays a lot like Alejandro Villanueva of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Which you talk about his strengths, you look at a guy that can work to the second level very well in the run game, also does a really good job of connecting on his blocks there as well. He's patient in pass protection, but judiciously uses his hands at the right time to keep the defender away. But he has to get stronger. That should have been a focus during his time off, as it'll help him play much better, or with much better balance as an offensive tackle, because he tends to end up on the ground a lot, far too often for my taste. But very good prospect. It's going to need a little bit of grooming because he took the year off to opt out due to COVID-19.
Jackson Carman out of Clemson is a massive human being coming out as an offensive tackle. You would expect 6'3", 345 pounds, but as big as he is, I don't think he played his position in college that you'll see him play in the NFL. I do think he'll be better suited to move down to the inside, but he did show up on tape protecting Trevor Lawrence's backside and really flourished in pass protection. He's got solid lower body strength and he's got great mobility, which is going to be good for run blocking schemes. He's not the longest. That's where I think one of his limitations, which will have him move inside. And he struggles at times in pass pro, especially against speed rushers. Again, move him to the interior and you can protect that. You know another offensive lineman who played tackle in college, moved down to the inside when he got to the NFL? Brandon Scherf. I think it served him pretty well, and I think it'll serve Jackson Carman pretty well too.
Asante Samuel Jr. from DBU, Florida State University. The thing that I love about Asante, he loves the game of football. He has very fluid hips. He's always in the hip pocket of pass catchers, and he loves to tackle. The concerns that I have with Asante, size could be an issue in the red zone. I mean, sometimes playing against taller receivers, they can kind of box them out for those 50-50 opportunities in the red zone. Also, his ball skills could be a bit better. He left a few plays on the football field there in Tallahassee. But the NFL comp for Asante Samuel Jr., Jair Alexander.
Notre Dame offensive guard Aaron Banks, standing at 6'5", 330 pounds. Aaron Banks is massive for an interior player, and he's got great athleticism for that size. He ran a bunch of different schemes during his time at Notre Dame, which should play to his strengths as far as the man, gap, and power schemes that you're going to be asked to run at the next level. But the thing that stands out the most, his hand placement. For playing such a short space, he's got the quickness and the proper hand placement really to drive defenders off of the football. Now, he could be a little more powerful for that size. At times you think he should dominate defender, doesn't win as much as he should, but you know, he's versatile. He's played some offensive tackle, even though I do think at the next level he's primarily an interior offensive line player. My comp for him, Roger Saffold, who's been a long-time veteran in the NFL at the guard position. But Aaron Banks, I think, is going to get drafted a lot higher than a lot of people think.
Purdue wide receiver Rondell Moore only played 7 games in the past couple of seasons. He opted out for COVID, had some injuries, came back, didn't play a lot. And when you look at his tape, there's a lot to like about Rondell Moore. He's explosive. He's not big. He's only 5'9", maybe 200 pounds at best. But he's built solidly. He's strong. He can get down the field. He didn't run a lot of routes at Purdue. That's a bit of a concern. He didn't run the entire route tree, but they use him a variety of ways. He's going to have to learn to become an NFL receiver. You know who else had to learn to become an NFL receiver? Tyreek Hill. And when you watch Tyreek Hill now for the Kansas City Chiefs, that's what I think the team that drafts Rondell Moore will be getting. A guy you can use in a variety of ways with big play speed and strength. Rondell Moore will be an explosive playmaker on the next level.
Not many people knew about Azeez Zozolari before the season, but they know about him now because this dude can flat out play. He got better as the year went on, and that culminated in the Peach Bowl when he had 3 tackles for loss in the win over Cincinnati. He is a stud off the edge. He's got that quickness, but if there's a weakness to him, his run defense could use some work. He isn't as quick to diagnose plays as he should be and struggled against bigger offensive linemen on a consistent basis. But with that said, he should evolve into a star once those coaches in the NFL level get in touch with him.
If I were to compare him to somebody, it would be Yannick Ngakoue. I think he's got that kind of edge threat. Not a complete player, but he will get there with time.
Offensive lineman Sam Cosby of the University of Texas has a ton of film to look at, and it's all really, really solid. The best part about it, the versatility you see. He played in a lot of games, 34 out of 35 he started in, 14 of those at right tackle, 21 at left tackle. Versatility is what creates a long NFL career. He's got a great combination of pass and run blocking schemes on film. He could add a little bit more to his frame. Came into Texas at 6'7", 260. He's at 310 now. I think he could add a little bit more, even get up to 330, 340 to withstand the duration of the NFL season and the type of guys he's going to have to go against. Keeps his pads a little bit too high at times, but he levels those off, and the sky's the limit for Sam Cosby.
Notre Dame linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. He stands at 6'1", 215 pounds, and you've got to love the way this young man plays the game. He is extremely explosive, fast flying to the football. He's actually good in coverage as well, too, playing out in space. He's incredibly long, but whether he's in man-to-man coverage or playing zone coverage, he gets those long arms up into passing lanes and just seems to have a knack for the football. Now, the biggest question is going to be, what does he play at the next level? Is he a linebacker? He's a little undersized for that. Is he a safety? He doesn't have much experience necessarily playing like that. So where he fits into a defensive scheme is going to be critical for him. And sometimes he plays so fast, he actually overruns some plays or maybe takes a bad angle. But bottom line is, whoever gets Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, they're getting one heck of a player. Reminds me a lot of Jamal Adams, who also happens to be in the safety, but plays down around the line of scrimmage, blitzing and in coverage and in the box. I think whatever team drafts Jeremiah is going to be asking him to do the same thing.
Dylan Raidens was able to overwhelm a lot of the opponents just by getting out there, right? At 6'6", 298 pounds, there are not many FCS defenders that are ready to handle North Dakota State in general, the powerhouse being that it is, but especially when he's blocking for Trey Lance and when he's just able to mow over defenders. He's got great length. He's got great athleticism. The size is good. And so really the only thing that we're concerned about is, just like Trey Lance and with other players from the FCS or lower levels of college football, what does it look like when he goes up against players and opposition that he doesn't have that overwhelming advantage for? Sometimes when he gets out into space, that upper body strength doesn't seem to dominate the way it does, at least in the box. But he's still so good, and that is something that you can pack on later. So 6'6", 298 pounds. Dylan Raidens looked awesome at North Dakota State, and he still has room to get better.
Penn State tight end Pat Freiermuth is 6'5", 250 pounds, and he's a heck of a receiver. You look at that body and you wouldn't think he'd be as good as a receiver as he is and was at Penn State. But he will be one of those guys on the next level who will catch you 50, 60 passes a season and get you 6, 7, 8 touchdown passes. The one concern with him is that he's not a great blocker for a guy that size. You would expect more. You would expect him to block like a guy like Rob Gronkowski, but he does not. For that reason, the better comparison for him is Hunter Henry, the Chargers tight end, who's been a guy who's been banged up a little bit with injuries, but caught 60 passes last year. That's the type of player Penn State tight end Pat Freiermuth will be.
Dwayne Estridge, the wide receiver out of Western Michigan, this guy can flat out fly. I think most people coming into this evaluation process were thinking he would go somewhere in the 3rd to 4th round. His stock really jumped coming out of the Senior Bowl. Kind of reminds me of a guy like Steve Smith for the Carolina Panthers. Goes 5'9", 190. Biggest question mark for me, because he's probably going to play the slot in the NFL. Can he hold on to those footballs on those short slant routes? Because he had problems with that at Western Michigan in terms of coughing up the football when he took a big hit. He cleans that part of his game up. I think he'd be a real asset at the next level coming out of the slot for any NFL team. Tutu Atwell, the wide receiver out of Louisville. If speed is what you want, this is who you want to pick up. This is a unique situation. When you talk to the scouts and to the GMs throughout the league, you'll hear guys talk about Atwell being a potential first rounder all the way to the 4th round. I happen to believe he's going to go somewhere toward the top of that draft in the 1st or the 2nd round. He kind of reminds you of Tavon Austin. Biggest thing you'll notice about Atwell is his all-around athleticism, and you can put this in 3 bullet points. Just think speed, agility, and explosiveness. The one knock on him is just You wonder how he's going to handle the physicality of the NFL because he only stands 5'9", 165. I think when he gets to the next level, he'll be playing on the edge or the slot. I think he can do both, and he just needs to pack some muscle and some weight on that frame to be able to survive a long season, which you see in the NFL.
Missouri linebacker Nick Bolton is a 6-foot, 235-pound linebacker who can run and chase. When you watch these linebackers nowadays, you want them to be able to cover as well. He struggles somewhat with his coverage ability, and that's a little bit of a concern when you look at some guys. He's only 6 feet tall, so you wonder if he'll be able to handle the pounding in the NFL. But when he takes on runners in the hole, he's able to knock them backwards, which is a good sign. Who's he remind me of? Jayon Brown, who's now with the Tennessee Titans and an unrestricted free agent. But he's one of those guys that can run to the football. The major concern with guys like him is their size. Will they wear down? Will the NFL take its toll on a smallish linebacker?
Marshall played a third wheel role in LSU's 2019 national championship run, but he stepped up to be the man in Baton Rouge in 2020 once Jamar Chase opted out and Justin Jefferson moved on to the NFL. And he has thrived as the go-to guy in this LSU offense. It was disjointed all year, but it didn't matter when it came to Terrace Marshall. His route running ability improved dramatically from his freshman season, and his ability to run after the catch caught opposing defensive backs off guard. He doesn't look like he's as shifty as he actually is, and that's going to make him a complete wide receiver at the next level. I think Saints fans know who I'm going to compare him to, and that's Michael Thomas. He's not as refined yet, but he could get there with time. 3-2-1, Landon Dickerson.
Ohio State had 4 NFL caliber linebackers to rotate in and out this year, and Werner was one of the best. He is a natural athlete that gets good depth and coverage and does not get stuck on blocks. He displays a good change of direction and has the versatility to play all 3 linebacker positions. The Indiana native offers the added value of contributing on special teams as well. He is a patient athlete that shows great instincts as a leader. Werner can continue to get stronger in his lower body and fill out his frame, which may lead some to question his tackling capabilities in the NFL. Werner projects as a potential starter. My comparison for him is tackling machine Blake Martinez.
Carlos, aka Boogie Basham, is the prototypical NFL talent that Dave Clawson wants coming out of Wake Forest. So he comes out of Virginia, a little bit overlooked, a little bit under-recruited, but he just spends time developing physically. He spends time working on his game, and he leaves Wake Forest as one of the most prolific defensive players in program history. At 6'3", 281 pounds, he's got really good size. And the thing that I love is that he just never quits. He's smart. He doesn't give up on the play. And when a play breaks down, Boogie Basham's almost always been there to try and make the tackle in the backfield. There are some concerns about some of his lateral agility and the explosiveness, where he has gotten a lot of his production on the backs of that motor, on the backs of that never quitting type attitude. But that is never going to be anything that an NFL coach is going to complain about. So what he lacks a little bit in some of that initial burst and explosiveness, well, he's able to keep it going because he just never quits. The production speaks for itself. Boogie Basham is just a high floor pick for the NFL. Josh Meyers has been such a huge part of Ohio State's success. He emerged as one of the country's top centers back in 2019, and his work with Justin Fields has helped the Buckeyes make back-to-back college football playoffs. At 6'5", 312 pounds, this guy is great blocking in the phone booth. He can get off the ball, he can get his hands, and he's got the versatility that if he wants to play guard, that is going to be another option for NFL teams as well. His pedigree is tremendous. His father was an offensive lineman at Kentucky. His mother is a Hall of Famer at University of Dayton as a basketball player. So we're expecting that he knows how to handle his business, but there is a little bit of concern about his limited athletic upside. For all that IQ, for all that production, and all that leadership, he does seem to have hit his peak there. Also a little bit concerned, similar to athletic upside, with the quickness. But with his experience and with his size, this is clearly a great addition for the interior of any offensive line.
Creed Humphrey, the center out of Oklahoma, generated a ton of buzz when he was the center when Kyler Murray was playing quarterback. He made that start as a redshirt freshman, played the entire season. If you're a quarterback in the NFL, you love it. This guy joins your team at 6'5", 320. Not only is he very athletic, but he's very smart. I think coming in and talking to most scouts, I think most people view him as a second or third round draft pick. Kind of reminds you of a Graham Glasgow, the center from the Broncos. This is a center that's one of the best in the class, and if he gets his hands on you, you are staying there. One of the things that I like most about him, and you'll hear this from the GMs and from the scouts around the league, is he gives you a lot of flexibility. He's a 3-year starter, and he can play any position on that interior offensive line.
Florida quarterback Kyle Trask, standing at 6'4", 227 pounds. Some of the things I really enjoyed about Kyle Trask is he got better the more he played. Surrounded by a lot of talent, but took advantage of it. You know, he showcases a lot of touch for a guy who's got a heck of a fastball, too, at the quarterback position. And he probably has the best poise under pressure of any quarterback in this past year's draft class. At times, it seemed like maybe he wasn't even aware the rush was there. But he demonstrates the ability to play from the pocket, and that's really his strength. Now, some of the weaknesses are the fact that he is immobile. And a lot of teams nowadays are going to have to incorporate the quarterback as part of the running game, or he's going to have to be able to get out of trouble from time to time. Another question I think teams might be asking is he a product of the system? Through to Kyle Pitts and Kadarius Toney, two of the best pass catchers in all of college football this past year, and without those two playing the bowl game, he struggled mightily. But my comp for Kyle Trask, Brad Johnson. Obviously a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but I think when you watch how they both move and navigate the pocket and throw from the pocket, that's what he reminds me of.